Slappers, today is a very interesting guest. He goes by the name Nir Bashan. Nir is a keynote speaker and best-selling author that speaks about creativity, innovation, and problem solving. In this episode, expect to learn Nir's bulletproof protocols to harness creative power, examples of today's most innovative humans, where creativity goes to die, and much more. Without further ado, Slappers, start the program.
What up, Mo? Yeah, we what up, Mo? Slap 'em up. Yeah, we slap 'em up. Yeah, we slap 'em up. We slap 'em up. We slap 'em up. Yeah.
Creativity is found with no pulse, contusions around the neck, lacerations on the body. Who are the suspects? That ambulance is perfect in the background right now.
Right?
That's not edited in. That's live.
That's quite a question. That's a nice one to start with.
Cheers.
So basically, creativity dies in negativity, man. That is the main culprit. And that is the main kind of thing that kills people from coming up with new ideas, different ideas, having the permission to do, what we have deep within our soul, within our psyche. The ability to solve problems creatively is like a God-given thing, right? Mm-hmm. And what ends up happening is we just fall apart, where we start to criticize ourselves. We start to get hard on ourselves. We start to look at why we can't do something instead of why we can do it. And that's where it all falls apart.
You're incapable of focusing on one task because you're kind of always multitasking with this negative thought, which it doesn't allow you to focus on whatever you're trying to do. I know if I've made talking points in a negative headspace before, it's gone very bad.
Oh, it's the worst,
yeah.
Right? And you're just discounting your ability simply by choosing that negativity, because being positive or negative is a choice. And it's a choice that you can make every day. It's a choice you can make, nonstop, really. And choosing positivity, choosing how to look at an interaction in a positive way is an incredible enabler of creativity.
Yeah. I was discussing this topic with a friend of mine, and he brought up, if you're stranded on an island and you are very scared and fearful, you get extremely creative and you start building shelter and this and that. And I said, well, there's positivity of hope underlying that, where you go, I hope I can make it till tomorrow. I will figure anything out that I have to. And so I kind of took his point and derailed it completely.
Right.
You're in a negative situation, but you're actually thinking extremely positively.
Right.
The bare bones of what's possible.
100%. So we've done some studies, right? So I've published a bunch of times in different magazines. I write for Psychology Today. I'm one of the most viral, article writers there.
That's why we invited you here.
Yeah, millions of people download the article. I'm like, yeah, that's awesome. And basically, we found that creativity and innovation are these things that got us to where we are today. There would be no human being, there would be no cool, awesome, state-of-the-art studio right now without our ancestors being creative, right? We were not the smartest. We were not the most powerful by far. I mean, dude, there was animals with teeth that were that big. If you lived to 18, 20, you were a great grandpa, right? There was just not we just couldn't figure out how to be smarter, more creative, more innovative than all of these other beasts. And what ended up happening is we figured out how to make a spear. We figured out how to innovate and put together a sharp object that was, just like something to cut berries with. And we figured out how to put that on a stick and force a beast, off of us and live a few longer years. And in modernity today, right, we have HVAC systems and really wonderful shelters and, multi-million-dollar homes with pools. All of that literally started in a cave somewhere because we were the most creative. We were the most innovative. It is literally a life force that gives us the ability to solve any kind of problem, no matter what it is, and no matter how it comes up. And I am a firm believer. You're not going to believe this, but I am publishing a book. It's out in December of this year. It's called The Solution Mindset. Available everywhere, right? Amazon, Walmart, it's going to be in stores. And it's literally a book about taking innovation from across the world, people like saving the coral reefs and people doing all kinds of amazing things, and literally taking that innovation and applying it to our everyday lives and seeing what it is that we can learn from the guy who's, doing this incredible thing. So it is literally who we are. It is a part of our soul, and it allows us to survive, and it also allows us to thrive. And it is really a good time now, especially with everything going on in the world, to start to embrace that solution mindset, that creativity, and that innovation.
We are the most innovative creatures on this planet, of course. We have heated floors and heated toilet seats. That's pretty great.
Right.
I saw this video. It's an animated video, and the scariest animals from way back in the day are the hairless monkeys that carry these sharp tools and follow the mammoth for hundreds and hundreds of miles, hiding in the bushes, waiting for any time to gang up on it. And it was just so eerie.
Right.
What do you say to the people who have submitted to the idea that they are just not the creative type?
So it's something I deal with all the time, right? I'm out doing keynotes. I do consulting with some of the best companies on earth. And a lot of people feel that they're not creative. We've lost it. We've lost that sense. So NASA has this test, right? And your viewers can look it up. It's incredible. Basically, they test for okay, you're in a spaceship somewhere, you lose communication with the Earth. It's just basic creativity, right? There's a screw, it gets threaded, right? So you can't put it in, but the screw's going to save your life. It needs to go in. You need to churn it, but it won't fit or whatever. And they give it to, it's very simple. They show it to kindergartners, and they're they score in the 90th percentile of genius on it. Right? They're oh, use a butterfly instead of a screw, stuff that you and I would never come up with. They're oh, imagine that it's a whatever and turn it upside down. And we're what? That's genius. Then they give it to high school kids, and they score in the 10th percentile, right? College kids do even worse. They're 5% of what a kindergartner has. And we've just lost that sense of creativity and innovation as a problem-solving sort of, tool. We've traded it for analytics. We freaking love numbers. We love Excel. We love anything that can be quantified in some kind of number. We love, right? We trust it. Oh, that's 8 feet. That's this, that weighs 3 pounds, right? The problem is that when we've overdeveloped one side of the mind, the analytical part, and we've underdeveloped the creative part, we're not in balance anymore, Brent. We're not living to the best of our abilities. We need to become more balanced in our day-to-day lives so that we could solve problems better, and we could solve immediate issues that happen all over the earth in a much, much better way. I'm a firm believer, I think I said it earlier, I'll say it again, that any problem that humanity has created, we can get ourselves out of it. No matter what it is, if it's pollution or if it's, overpopulation or, every single thing that we've gotten ourselves into, we can get ourselves out of. We just need to remember and to rekindle that creative drive that we had as kids.
Man, I love some Excel. Excel, yeah. There's a picture of me and Excel together.
Yeah,
oh, yeah.
There you go.
This leads me to this. Nothing is original. Austin Kleon. There is nothing new under the sun. Ecclesiastes. What is originality? Undetected plagiarism. William Ralph Ing. What do these beliefs mean for the world of creation?
Absolutely false. There is the ability that humans have to solve incredible problems that is tied to our very DNA. That's literally who we are. The research on the new book, right? The solution mindset. Mm-hmm. We found that scientists have isolated the 23 genomes or whatever in our DNA that were carried by our, ancestors that solve problems. It's literally who we are and how we interact with the world. The most brilliant part is that no matter who you are, no matter where you come from, the way that you look at problem solving, the way you look at creativity is yours and yours alone. So if you have a completely different background than I have, and some of your listeners will have completely different backgrounds as well. And that is why it is so important, right, to look at those particular issues that we're going through and allow who you are and where you've come from and your outlook on life to be able to solve them. So I completely disagree with all your quotes. I've seen two people in a room 2 weeks ago at a conference, right, who have similar looking background, right, similar schooling and all this stuff, attack a problem that's going on in their industry from two completely different ways simply because of their socioeconomic backgrounds, their cultural backgrounds, and all of that stuff. And my mission in life is to re-energize and regenerate that excitement around the potential of problem solving.
I love it. Okay, so what bulletproof protocols do you give to someone who wants to be more creative?
Bulletproof protocol number 1 is be more positive. It's a choice. So again, another thing we've studied for the new book was language. And we found that there is a 6-to-1 ratio of positive to negative words in the English language. Isn't that crazy? 6 to
That's
1.
insane.
Yeah.
That's why I'm learning Spanish right now.
There you go.
Trying to get out of that English dust.
Right.
Yeah.
So for every positive word, good, we have awful, negative, terrible, sucks, on and on and on, 6 to 1. And so we studied it all over the world, and we found that there's between a 3 to 20 negative to positive word ratio in language. And that to me is incredible. It has to do, I don't know, right? There's no conclusive evidence on why human languages are overtly negative, but it has to do with our ancestors, right? It has to do with don't eat that bad grape. You'll die. You'll puke. It's horrible. It has to do with something in our background that, you couldn't eat that bad, you couldn't drink that bad water. You couldn't do this thing. It was horrible, bad, and it kind of kept us alive. Yet here we are sending emails to people and texting, and we have control of our language. And the one thing that your listeners, your viewers can do right now is choose better words, right? Instead of, hey, get me that proposal by Tuesday, it's like, hi, Steve. Hope you're doing well. Hope everything's going good. Listen, I'm looking at that proposal. Would be great to have it by Tuesday of next week. Let me know what you think. And that changes the dynamic from send me this thing to now, oh, so Steve gets it, and he's not like, oh, man, Nir, such a jerk. I don't want to, okay, fine, I'll send it.
Yeah.
It changes that dynamic now to, hey, Nir, yeah, I'm doing good. With that baseball practice the other day, the coach says hi. Anyway, we'll get you that proposal by Tuesday. And then he sent that back, right? And I'm like, cool, it's by Tuesday. The coach, I haven't talked to him in forever. So I sent another email. I go, hey, how's coach doing? And he goes, oh, he's doing really well. And, the kids are starting blah, blah, blah. And he's got that thing going. And now I'm like, oh, that thing, I want to invest in that thing. I want, that cool bat that he's doing with kids. It's like a starter bat to help, kids hit better. And it turns the world into not only a better place, right? That's the basic. It just turns our interactions into a better modality, but it also leads the potential to creative and innovative thoughts, right? So think about it. When you text somebody, text a little bit more humanistically, a little bit more empathetically, use better words, choose those words. It's something that you could do right now, and the benefit, the creativity that you'll get from that is incredible. It's a game changer.
So better words, different language. What else would be a great protocol to be more creative?
So choosing better words, choosing your language better, being positive, I think is incredible. Another really, really cool thing that you can use to become more creative is to basically understand and empathize with people that you're working with, right? And people that you're encountering in a day-to-day life. I think that we are a little impatient these days. We are a little brash. We are a little fast. And not everybody that we meet is at our same level. Some people literally that we just are dealing with got a phone call that was horrendous, 5 minutes before you interacted with them. You don't know these things. And when you're a little bit more empathetic, when you allow people's environments and people's conditions and whatever they're going through to kind of play out in a conversation or an engagement of some sort, you end up more open to a creative and innovative moment. What ends up happening is you go to yourself, well, somebody might be going through something, so maybe they're not answering the way that I'm assuming that they'll answer, or maybe they're not engaging in the way that I assume that they'll engage in. And then you could ask the question, well, why? Why are they doing that? Why is it not according to my plan? And then you start to question, well, is my plan really the way that things should go in the first place? And it leads to a creative and innovative discourse that allows you to kind of, be more in the moment, be more aware of what people are going through. It's an incredible, incredible thing. Just allow a little bit of empathy, allow a little bit of consideration of others when you interact with them, and you'll see some amazing creative benefit.
I like group settings for creativity.
Yeah.
When I'm preparing for a podcast or looking for a new guest, I usually like to court with a friend or a group of creative people, and I'll throw specific things out their way. How does somebody create a really good environment if they're meeting at a workplace or meeting at a coffee shop to allow creativity and innovation to occur like this?
The other thing that can extract creativity is writing things down. So there's a different set of tools that happen in your mind, different reactions that happen when we actually write something down versus when we think about it. A lot of people tell me, Nir, I'm super creative, right? I sing in the shower and I come up with an idea, or, I drive to work and, on the drive, I come up with a bunch of good ideas. And then I say, cool, what are you doing with them? And they're like, I forgot it by the time I got to work. Like, I got out of the shower and then the idea left. So we have to get in a rhythm of writing things down. Now we've studied this. And when you sit there and you jot a quick note, even if it takes a minute, the brain then takes it and instead of having to remember it, it offloads it to like a notepad, and it feels better, and it doesn't put the pressure on your brain or whatever to try to remember that particular thing. But you feel kind of like, hey, this is great. Like, I'm starting to get ideas. Now, what I recommend, if you're sitting in a coffee shop right now and you're like, man, I'm ready to brainstorm. Like, how do I come up ideas one-on-one or with a group? Everybody take out a notepad, right? And write down 3 ideas that come to mind on the particular topic. Usually, we think about executions. Almost always. And I've done this with famous restaurants and stuff who want to launch a new product, right? We get the execs in the room and they tell me, Nir, we're ready to launch a new product. I'm like, great. What's it going to be? And they give me like 10 executions. It's going to be, the meat lover double stuffed crust pizza, or the hot chicken wings with the extra sauce, or whatever. Now I'm like, well, why? Why are we doing this? And they start writing it down. And what ends up happening is, if you could think of your ideas in a global way rather than an executionary way, you will start to develop better and more creative ideas. What I mean is that if you're on a podcast, right, and you're like, oh, I need some really good questions to ask the guest, or, something like that, start to ask yourself, why are you doing the podcast in the first place? Cool. Now start writing 3-4 ideas based on that mission, based on that philosophical overview. A lot of people will sit and grind out the details, right? Oh, I've got an idea. I'm going to, ask these types of questions. Well, why am I doing it? Who cares? Like, keep going. Like, I got like 5 or 6, but they don't relate it to a purpose. And if you don't relate it to a purpose, you're going to get stuck coming up with creative ideas.
That's deep. That could cause an existential crisis in some people.
Right.
Like, why are you doing it in the first place? I don't know, just buffalo wings, man. We're trying to sell some of these.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa. What are some of the greatest examples of the power of creativity in the modern world?
So, super great question. My new book, The Solution Mindset, Wiley & Sons, December 31st or January 1st, depending on it's either coming out at New Year's Day or New Year's Eve. depending on where you are. Covers some of the most amazing people on earth that are doing incredible things. And then I take whatever they're doing in their field and I deduce 3 things that anybody can use no matter who they are, right? My buddy Titoan Benecott is in Tahiti. And he was 16. He surfed the same dang spot like every day his entire childhood, right? Shows up one morning, there's no surf. And he's like, what's going on? He dives down and they find like the reef is just like bleached out. It's like not there. And he runs home like we all would and starts Googling it. And he gets some really good ideas. You know what? I'm gonna figure this out. He goes and he talks to the scientists because there's some science, marine biology bases over there in Tahiti. And he goes, hey guys, I got a really good idea. And they're like, buddy, chill. You're 16. Like, you need a PhD in marine biology. You need to go to school. You need like years of practice. You need to write a dissertation and all of this stuff. Like, just chill, buddy. Like, after you do that, come see us and, we'll talk then. And he's like, you guys, I love science and everything, but absolutely not. And he literally got some rope, got a piece of coral, planted it, made some mistakes, planted it again and again. And today he owns the biggest coral restoration company on earth. And he employs many of those scientists that told him that he couldn't do it, right? And so what I want to do is help inspire people to understand that creativity and innovation are that immediate to us. It's just about getting some rope and diving in, literally. And that's the first chapter of the book. That's an incredible, incredible thing that somebody is doing simply on the power of an idea. Like, he doesn't have a degree. He doesn't know where the currents, he knows it now, right? From practice, from getting in the ocean and doing this stuff. But just trying an idea and just trying things, especially when somebody tells you no, that you can't do it, is reason enough to move forward and actually try.
When I was in Korea, by the way, Korea is my second favorite nation of all time.
Nice.
I love Korea. My brother-in-law is Korean and he lives over there. They only blind people can be masseuses over there. I thought that was pretty damn creative.
Wow.
What are we the most creative country?
We are. We're pretty dang innovative. We are. Some of the things that we're doing here are incredible. Some of the things that we're doing here are super backwards. The problem, the opportunity that we have is that we are literally a melting pot of the world, right? So if there's an innovation somewhere in Norway, right, there's a good chance that there's a lot of people here in the US who are like jumping all over it, tweaking it and like figuring out a way to improve and version up those types of innovations. And yes, we are still the epicenter of innovative and creative thought all over the world. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. But we don't have blind masseuses. That's
Right.
the one problem.
Right.
When we are children, we are much better at divergent thinking, which is the ability to generate multiple varying ideas to solve a problem. Do companies work with children for creative brainstorming purposes often or not really?
Really good question. Not really, but some are. Some are like totally into it. I've been to a few focus groups where they get kids in and like ask them how to solve problems because they get ideas that they've never they've never thought.
That's sick. A lot of kids are trying to make some money too.
Right.
That Xbox is not cheap. They'll say yes to anything.
That's so
They'll
funny.
do it.
Yeah. It's incredible. But no, not a lot. More should. It's kind of a cool little hack to get really amazing ideas out there. Absolutely.
Yeah, kids are real creative, but is not knowing good? Like, I don't like reading somebody's book before I have them on the show because then it feels so played off and it just destroys all creativity, all entertainment aspects of the conversation. Kids barely know anything. maybe that's why they're so creative. Tatawan.
Tito.
Maybe him not knowing anything about the coral reef at first allowed him to think more creatively, kind of be like, just plant this here, get the rope, somehow this works. We should be more stupid to be more creative. No?
Yeah, I don't think it's stupidity, although it's an interesting concept. I think it's the ability to ask questions, right? To be inquisitive. And I think that's what kids do. Kids don't really care about asking questions that are, perhaps maybe not socially acceptable or rude.
Yeah.
I was a teacher for a long time, right? And I taught at UCLA and at different colleges. And, they're kids kind of, right? They're 18-year-olds, 18, 19, 20. They would ask like first question, and be like, oh, how much money do you make?
Right.
And like, okay, I make this much. It's like stuff that we don't ask. So I think there's that ability that kids have. Even college kids, I think, don't really have some of those finite like social things dialed in. I think in the case of Tito, man, he just wanted to do something.
Yeah.
And forward momentum and getting out there and solving problems instead of thinking about them is incredible. I think we overthink and triple think every dang which way. And what we're doing is wasting precious time that we have to actually solve the dang problem in the first place.
What other sort of super creative people are doing some beautiful, beautiful things in the world right now that you've been writing about?
Yeah, so I got a friend of mine in Israel. His name is Gil Winch. And Gil's back hurt one day, and he goes to the doctor. Stage 4 cancer, you got like 2 months to live.
Oh, wow.
He had one of the most successful consultancies in Europe. He was working with, Fortune 500, international, amazing companies, consulting, doing that kind of work, and literally quit the day he got the diagnosis, right? And he was talking to his wife, and she's like, why'd you quit? And he's like, because I'm not doing what I need to be doing in the world. I need to be helping and doing something. And she was like, amazing. What? And he was like, I don't know. And so he walks away from this lucrative career and he goes to a party one night, right? And he sees a friend of his in a wheelchair. This friend is like a super smart guy. They went to college together. He's like, dude, how you doing? He's like, better than you, And he was like, oh, yeah, you heard? Yeah. Well, what's going on with you? And his friend in a wheelchair goes, oh, I just got laid off. It's like, why'd you get laid off? He's like, what do you mean, why'd I get laid off? It's like, why'd you get laid off? And he's like, I'm in a wheelchair, dude. And Gil's like, so what? And he goes, why, you don't know about disabled people and the whole thing? He's like, no. He's like, people with disabilities have like a 5-time worst chance getting a job. They have 5 times more difficulty staying employed once they do have a job. I got the statistics. I can't remember them, but they're earth-shattering, dude. They're super depressing. Super depressing, because somebody's in a wheelchair, it like the use of antidepressant goes up and all of this stuff. And it was like a light bulb moment for Gil, right? His first immediate thought was, I hate that doctor who told me that I had 3 months to live. I'm going to outlive him. And his second thought was like, I have found my goal in life. And today Gil owns one of the biggest people with disabilities employment agency in all of Israel and Europe.
Wow.
And people come from all over the world to study his model. He's literally working now on cognition, like autism and stuff like that. He has built out blind people, deaf people, people with visual disabilities, on and on and on. And it's amazing. He goes toe to toe with some with companies who hire like college graduates, right? And he's hiring this, underrepresented community or whatever, and he's having better, or in some cases, at least the same results, but in most cases, better results than other companies simply by zooming in on this population. And it's incredible, right, what he's doing. And so I extract all kinds of things that he's doing with people with disabilities that anybody else can do. It's those kinds of stories that are super inspiring, and they seem like, what does that have to do with me, right? I'm an accountant. Like, what does that have to do with me? Like, I'm in mining, or I work in manufacturing, or in the auto industry. Like, what does that have to do with me? And it really is a series of creative and innovative thinking sort of milestones that make it incredibly repeatable by people who are not doing those various things. So Gil learned that, hey, if he takes some extra time during interviewing people and he doesn't multitask and he really pays attention, he can differentiate in a 20-minute interview what, like you and I who have interviewed people and hired people before, while we're on the phone, while we're, texting somebody and like doing a Slack chat, I'm listening to your answer, while you're doing something else. He's derived the way of just paying attention, like real, honest to goodness attention. And that attention yields incredible results. And it's something that anybody can use. Just pay a little bit more attention to one thing at one time, finish it, and then move on to the next. It's something that Gil has led a revolution in hiring some people that generally don't get hired because they're in a wheelchair or because they have a disability. He's able to transition that by paying attention, by putting somebody where they rightfully belong. It's incredible, that transformation.
You kind of waged war against multitasking.
Yes.
And you're very against multitasking.
Big time.
Is multitasking something as simple as listening to music whilst doing something else, whilst writing a report or whatever it is?
No, it's the amount of time you spend dedicated to a task, right? So a lot of us don't do something fully. We don't commit to doing something fully. And we can never get creative and innovative results. We can never get where we need to go unless we sit there and actually focus on the task at hand, right? Listening to music is cool. You can have, I dimmed the lights and like put the, the laser beam on for the cat, right? And the cat's like jumping everywhere and it's really great. But it's that amount of focus that you put on what is going on in front of you that is a game changer for creativity. And it's also a game changer for efficiency. Because I work with groups all the time and people are like, yeah, everyone's triple booked all day. And like, okay, why are you triple booked? Because, everybody is texting while emailing, while half in a meeting, half out of a meeting, and all this other stuff. So yeah, it's a game changer. Focusing on one thing, completing it, moving on to the next is incredible.
Yeah, multitasking is not my forte, probably because I can't do it.
Right.
Yeah, but that might be a superpower. There's like high functioning people with like Asperger's or, autism. They're so high functioning in it, and I think it's their focus, their ability to focus on something, because that's all they care about. They do not care about the classical music or having a little bit of dopamine. All they need is this one thing at a time. Do you work with anybody that has like a high functioning sort of disability? Have you seen that firsthand?
I have not. I've seen different teams that I've coached and stuff with people across the spectrum do well. I think some of these creative tools, some of these innovative tools just speak to how humanity wants to think about things, right? Which is always slow, deliberate, and then kind of finding a path forward. I think it's something that anybody can get behind. It's really cool. Limited exposure with people unless they're in different teams and stuff like that. But I've seen people do really well with focus, with some of these getting your language better, choosing what to say more deliberately, those types of tools.
What industries do you think are really falling behind on the creative and innovative path? Maybe for some outside reasons, right? But could you think of any industry that could really use your help?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of industries have fallen behind, right? Like I remember, I'll take aviation for example. airplanes were like amazing in the 60s and 70s, right?
I still don't understand how something that heavy is. I know there's science to it, but something that heavy is flying to the, certain birds can't fly because they're too heavy.
Right.
Whatever. Continue. Sorry.
So basically, like, it was, 5 hours to LA, New York with a game changer, right? Dude, that was 50 years ago, and it's still 5 hours. So I think there's a lot of really cool innovation in aircraft design and speed, different things that are really amazing in that field. Manufacturing is also one of these very, very cool fields where new and different ideas can really make a substantial shift in both the output, how people feel about what they're doing, and all of that stuff comes together in an incredible way. But yeah, there's a lot of industries out there that need a bit of fresh thinking, a bit of different thinking. And the first instinct is always like, okay, we'll get a consultant in here like me, or we'll start an innovation department, right? And that will take care of all the new ideas. The problem with that type of thinking is that innovation comes from every human being on earth, right? It's deeply inside of us. And it's about reigniting that sense of creativity, that sense of innovation, not offloading it somewhere else, right? It's about strengthening our own ability to solve these problems. And I see it a lot in companies that I work with where they have a wonderful product or they've had some success in these certain fields or in this certain market, and they double down on it, which is great, right? And they've extracted all the possible success from that one vertical. And now it's time to come up with a different idea, and they're scared to death about, okay, well, what do we do now? It's like, this is the exact perfect time to start looking within and coming up with those ideas and allowing yourself to solve problems that might be scary to solve, right? They might take a different change of course. They might take some amazing, push that you weren't ready to execute, simply to move forward and simply to come up with new ideas. And that's what I see a lot of. I see a lot of people that are perhaps a little too scared to take a risk, to go and then innovate, to go and create something new.
If Aviation hired me, my first innovative task would be loading the plane back to front rather than front to back. Why haven't we done that?
I think they found that if you load like the window seats first and then the middle seats and the aisles last.
Is that what they're doing?
No, I think somebody should do it. That's a good idea.
That's one step further. See, this is why this is good.
We should license that.
Yeah.
Start selling it.
It was my idea originally, so it would have to be a 60-40 split.
Right.
If that's okay with you.
I'm fine with it. The Lincoln boarding system.
So, something else that's really behind industry-wise, I would say has to be dealerships.
Car
dealerships.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, the other type of dealership. No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, now.
Car dealerships, man. Like, what's the price of the car?
I know.
But there's a beauty to it, and there's a lot of jobs. But what's the price of the car that I'm buying? When I go get an iPhone, there's a price of the iPhone, used or new.
Right.
Just give me the MSRP. I know there's some art, but usually you're losing out. That's why they still do it, because you're usually losing more than you're gaining from the dealership, of course. So maybe we should hit up some Honda headquarters or something like that. Yeah.
Come up with some new... the car business is crazy, man. I mean, it's just a crazy business. There's so much regulation there. And the way that it started here in the U.S., it's not the same overseas. Like, here in the U.S., there's a dealership model and all that stuff. Tesla, of course, has kind of like tried to circumvent it where you can order direct. They're a brand where you know the price. I mean,
The Japanese, they know how to make a car, man.
You like the Japanese car?
Oh, yeah. Honda, they have Hyundai, right? They have Hyundai, too?
Hyundai's Korean.
Oh, see, I like Koreans.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, man, Koreans are my favorite. Yeah, absolute favorite. Well, dude, I want to give you a chance to remind the listeners to the date of your next book's arrival.
Yeah, so it's called The Solution Mindset.
Right.
It's out December 31st or January 1st, whatever, hopefully. It'll be in bookstores everywhere, Amazon, Walmart, all the bookstores. It's an incredible book. If you like some of the stories you heard today, there's more of them in there, and it's a game changer. It really is, and I can't wait to hear from your listeners what they think, and can't wait to get it out into the world.
I love it. I want to ask you the question, why are you releasing this book?
There we go.
Yeah.
Because I love it. I love the feeling, the effect I see when people are like literally solving their problems by themselves, right? I think we're armed with that ability to overcome any adversity, and we just don't practice it enough, right? We're told, oh, we need someone else to help. Oh, we need more money. We need more resources or whatever it is. But I believe that you got everything that you need to right there and then. You just need to tap into that ability. You need to remember how you were as a kid and figure out some of these creative solutions on your own, and then go forth and solve them. For me, seeing somebody inspired to do that, inspired to just change a little thing, right? It's an evolution, not a revolution, right? Just change a little bit of something at work, and it makes it so much better for them, is the reason I do it.
I just watched 10 Star Wars movies in the past week and a half. So that's what I've been up to, if you've been wondering. C-3PO is not creative at all because he's a droid.
Right.
And in the entirety of all the movies, he's saying the probability and the chances of them succeeding, if they're going to survive or not. And everybody always goes, shut up. This is the one opportunity. Let's get creative.
Right.
So don't be C-3PO. Be Han Solo. So, well, Nir Bashan, I really appreciate you coming in, man. If y'all enjoyed this episode at all, or if you enjoyed Nir Bashan, make sure you check out his books. His book's coming out December 31st. I love you guys. Keep slapping. Peace.